Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in for yet another interesting, insightful episode of Leadership Satsang. I'm your leadership coach, Yukti Kapoor Mehndi Ratta, welcoming you all to a satsang session focused on our emotions and our emotional intelligence. As we all understand, intelligence is to be understood, felt, experienced, and mastered in a more holistic manner. And for that, we need to go beyond just cognitive intelligence. We need to learn how to focus on emotional intelligence as well as spiritual intelligence, creative intelligence. And there are different other forms of intelligence that comes together to add to human intelligence. And now we have another add-on to it, which is artificial intelligence, right? So with all this said, let us see how we can continue adding more to human intelligence so that it can lead the show. And that's when we align artificial intelligence to add more support and more ability for us to create that impact as humans. So human intelligence needs to supersede artificial intelligence, which is our own creation. And for that to happen, we need to very consciously work on another important aspect of intelligence, and that is emotional intelligence. And hence the topic for this satsang session. You know that this is the week of the month when we have a special guest with us. So please join me to welcome Mr. Vasanth Agarwal, who's spent a large part of his life on not only understanding emotional intelligence, but sharing this understanding and knowledge with a lot of people out there. Thank you, Vasanth Agarwal ji. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Super. So before we bring you in, sir, let us do what we always do in our satsang sessions, and that is to be here 100%, be in the moment by chanting Om together. We'll spend just a couple of minutes and chant Om 5 times. And as we do that, through the vibrations, we're able to bring ourselves into the moment completely. So please join me to do that. May I request you all to sit comfortably wherever you are and close your eyes. Keep your spine straight and relax your shoulders. Take a nice, deep, beautiful breath in and breathe out. Take another nice, deep breath in and breathe out once again. And with the next breath in, let's prepare ourselves to chant Om together. If it's possible for you to say it out loud in your own space, then I would always encourage you to do that. So let's take a nice deep breath in. Om. 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 Shanti. 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 Please rub your palms together and gently place them on your eyes, near your face, and neck and shoulders, and your entire body, and slowly come back. And now let me know, how are you feeling in this moment? Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to do this. It's just so nice and helps you to find your centering, to connect with your core with this simple yet powerful chant. How are you feeling in this moment, and where are you joining us from? Let's have that in the chat. I would love to know how you're feeling. And are you here with me 100%? This is so nice. If you're here 100%, I will know through your comments in the chat. So please let me know. How are you feeling? As I welcome our guest today, Mr. Vasanth Agarwal. I'm really, really glad to have him join us. We put in a lot of necessary research and do our homework to bring you some relevant conversations through our guests once every month. And for that, it's important that, people we are talking to, people we are reaching out to, have not only intellectual understanding of the topic, but there are also people who walk the talk. There are people who have lived the concepts that they're here to share with all of us. And that's who Mr. Vasanth Agarwal is for you. I'm going to quickly tell you a little bit about him. He has 14 years of experience as a founder and managing director of Discover My Mind, which is a platform dedicated to advancing EI, emotional intelligence, through training programs and innovative technology and community engagement, etc. He's an author, a speaker, a coach, and most importantly, a passionate individual who wants to spread this intelligence quotient called emotional intelligence quotient in the world around. So once again, welcome, Vasantji, and tell us what has been your motivation behind dedicating your life towards emotional intelligence and going so deep into this topic. You need to unmute, sir.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Well, thank you for the wonderful introduction. Basically, the topic was leadership, correct? How does AI affect or can be applied to leadership? So what I'm going to do is first talk a little bit about leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will go to how AI can be applied to leadership, right? So, what is leadership? It's there every day in our lives. Countries need leadership. The army, the armed forces need leadership. Everywhere we go, we need a leader. Whether we're a union, we need leaders. And so the important thing to think about is how does leadership matter? How can we effectively do the job that we're supposed to? Countries need leadership, right?
Absolutely.
Whether it's India or any other country, we all need leadership to lead the people, to lead our troops, to lead everybody. So the important thing is to understand how emotional intelligence can play a part in the leadership process. So now let's transgress to emotional intelligence, also known as social emotional learning, also known as emotional learning. What is it? I was at a party the other day and somebody asked me, they said, "What do you do, Mr. Agarwal?" And I said, "I'm an author, speaker, consultant on emotional intelligence." They looked at me and they said, "ये क्या नई बीमारी है?" Is this
Seriously? I'm
and this
surprised.
was a very educated person. The problem we have is the lack of education and awareness on the value proposition. If we don't understand EI, people, like you said, talk about AI, every day is AI.
True.
AI cannot exist without EI.
Absolutely.
The human element has to be there. Yes, maybe 20, 30 years from now, AI will take over the AI aspect, maybe. But in any event, so getting back to what is AI? What is, okay, a feeling becomes a thought, becomes an emotion, which makes you say or do something, right?
Right.
Which then results in a response from the person that you're communicating, right? And then a simple discussion on politics or sport, whatever, becomes an argument. Why? Because emotions get involved.
Right.
You say something or do something, and that is where the now the key is communication, okay, and relationships. Those are the two major factors of emotional intelligence. So let's go back. There are four pillars of emotional intelligence. The first is self-assessment. Who are we? Why are we here? What are we doing? All right. The second is self-regulation. How to manage your emotions, how to identify them. All right. Then we go on to empathy and compassion.
Right.
Right. Empathy is not the same as sympathy. They're different.
Yeah.
And then there is the final, which is relationship management. Okay. So how do you manage your relationships? If you can't do that, whether it's within the family, whether it's in a working group, wherever it is, relationship management. That's the fourth pillar of AI.
Right.
Now, let's talk about how AI affects our daily lives, right? All right. So we have AI affects, emotional intelligence affects our physical health. If we're not physically healthy, we're not emotionally healthy. If we're not emotionally healthy, we cannot be physically healthy. So it's a straight line function. Okay. The next is financial matters. What troubles us is if we are financially unstable. Okay. We don't have the resources to meet our needs. That affects your emotional health.
Right.
The third is our family relationships. The child is misbehaving, is not listening, not talking, is holed up in his or her room, texting to friends. That's because emotionally, and talking about leadership, you have to have leadership. The parent, the mother, the father has to lead the child. That's part of leadership. Okay, and so the child is looking up to you.
Absolutely.
Or anyway, and the fourth, I'm forgetting what it was, but health, uh, career, finances, and relationships. Just those are the four basic where emotional intelligence applies, where you can do. Now, people say, everybody talks about IQ, intelligence quotient, right? Oh, if I get a PhD, my IQ will be better. Wrong. Your IQ remains the same from the day you are born Yeah, believe you me, it is your EQ, your emotional quotient that grows every day. People don't know that. I have thousands of psychiatrists, educators on my LinkedIn network. Thousands. PhD degrees, 8 years PhD. They're coming to me. They're saying, we were never taught emotional intelligence.
Right.
It was not part of the curriculum.
Yes.
Can you, because how do we advise a client? If we, now, going back, I'm sorry, there's so much to share.
No, I understand. Please
You
go.
need, firstly, an assessment.
Yes.
Then you need regulation. Then you need empathy, compassion. Then you need relation. How do you do an assessment? I have programs that will assess your EQ. So you know your strengths and weaknesses. You know that our emotional intelligence comprises of 9 multiple intelligence. Aptitude, memory, logic. These are all intelligences that make up our emotional intelligence.
Right. Right. So, so just to kind of come in here, Vasanth, I think thank you so
Yeah.
much for setting the context so well and giving the basic structure framework of what is emotional intelligence. I think, people today have a little more and better understanding of it than before. Especially the leaders who join us for the satsang sessions are avid learners, readers, people who are lifelong learners. That's why they're here every single Tuesday. So I have no doubt about the fact that we are clear about the relevance of emotional intelligence. But one thing that bothers me is this whole conversation about emotions, right? So people feel that emotion is a weakness. Being emotional is a weakness. So,
Correct.
and it is related to feminine energy, which it is. Like all of us have masculine and feminine energy. And, one form of feminine energy is our emotional ability to be emotional, ability to be sensitive, which I think are needed for men, within men as leaders as much as it's needed in women who are leaders. So the difference between being emotional and emotionally carried away, that difference is important to understand, that you have emotions because you're a human. So if you feel emotions, then congratulations, because that confirms and validates that you're a human. That's what makes us a human. But allowing yourself to get carried away by it, allowing yourself to not have a grip on your emotions, and therefore not have any grip on your conduct, your behavior, is what takes away our ability to intelligently manage emotions, which is emotional intelligence. And learning that will help us to then manage these emotions we experience as humans. What's your thought on that, sir?
Well, it's funny, what you say is true. People don't like emotional people. Oh, that person is too emotional. I don't want to be. Excuse me. So now, emotions should not be suppressed. We suppress our emotions because we may be perceived to be, quote, emotional, just like what you said. So expressing your emotions is very important. Getting it out of your system. Now, part of that goes back to what I said earlier about communication. People listen to respond. You say a question, you make a statement, immediately the other person responds. Because I'm so smart, I'm so quick, they have not even understood what the question is.
Yes, yes, so true.
So that is half the problem. If you know what is being, who is saying it, when, where, why. Think about it. There's a company called in America called 6 Seconds. It takes 6 seconds for somebody's statement to register in your mind, such that you can respond appropriately. I have employees, you ask questions, Fatak say, Are, yes, sir, Are, didn't even know what I am asking. Did you think about it for even a second? No, I know the answer. I'm very smart. And that's what people do. They react. They
Yes.
don't listen. So listening is an art
True.
that
True.
we need to learn. If you
Absolutely.
listen, if you hear, if you understand,
Hmm.
then your response will be totally different
Hmm.
from your reactive response, because we want to show how smart you are and how the other person doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right. Right. So to take this forward, if you look at the professional journey that we all experience, whether you are a corporate executive or you run your own business, there is a certain journey that we go through and develop our career. So in this journey, there are different levels. You start with zero experience, you kind of go up the ladder, and you become more senior in the system, etc. Do you see any correlation between emotional intelligence and our career growth? Do you think that it becomes more important or less important at a certain stage in our career? What is the correlation, if any?
Excellent question. Let me go back to HR in India, human resource.
Hmm.
In the US, when a job applicant comes, right, the first thing that is done is an EQ assessment. 30% points are given for EQ evaluation, right? 30% for your experience, 30% for your qualifications, and 10% for your personality. This is standard operating procedure in most parts of the world. I have spoken to so many senior executive VPs of HR of big company. I said, how do you evaluate an employee when you hire him? Oh, उसके पास 10 साल का experience है. Oh, उसके पास PhD है. Oh, he must be okay, or she. Wait a minute. Do you know if that applicant is suitable for the job, for the group, for the company? No, we don't do that. Yeah. So my point, it's an indirect answer to your question. Is HR in India is still in the dark ages? They don't want to change their ways. They've been doing it for 50 years. They'll continue to do it. I mean, wait a minute. Do an EQ assessment. Anyway, so by the way, school counselors in India, they have no idea about AI. If a student is not performing, behaving, whatever, they don't know. The parent is blaming the teacher is blaming the child is blaming. So blame game going on.
Right.
Because I'm involved with a lot of education institutions. So that's one aspect. HR is another aspect. Psychology, psychiatry, mental health is another aspect. So I'm just trying to say to you, my mission and vision in life is education and awareness. That is step one. Unless somebody is aware of the value proposition, they're not going to embrace it. You know what is it?
True.
So I have a website, www.discovermymind.com. I have a group on LinkedIn called Emotional Intelligence Alliance. Within a year and a half, I have 6,000 members worldwide, all dedicated only to emotional intelligence.
Amazing.
Nothing else.
Much needed. Fantastic. Thank you for creating these kind of communities. I think it's very, very important that we have more such conversations, and to take this discussion forward and maybe also conclude it at this point. I think it becomes even more important to have a high EQ as you go up the ladder, because you are managing more and more people. You're responsible for their growth, their
There you
development, and
go.
hence
There you go.
understanding,
There
right?
you go.
Yeah, so that's how critical it is, especially for people who've joined us here. So I want to thank Jairam, Satish, Raghavendra, Neeraj, Hoishi, Indiran, Prem Raj, everybody who's joined in here live. Thank you so much for being here. Jaspreet, so good to have you. Anita, if you have any questions, do put it in the comments. Of course, we would not have time to take them up today because we have only half an hour slot. But next week is an open house, and I would love to take them up and see how I can help you go deeper with this topic or any other in the space of leadership. Just before we conclude, I think it's very, very important. And in fact, the conversation will remain incomplete if we don't talk about the impact of AI on EI. So as AI is growing and taking over every industry, how would it affect the importance and relevance of EI in the times to come? So what are your thoughts on that?
That's a very difficult question because AI is on a trajectory that is phenomenal. And you can today go to YouTube, you can go to AI, you can go to so many forums and just put in emotional intelligence. You'll get hundreds of people, hundreds of posts, hundreds of articles on the subject. So my point is that I do counseling people that have emotional issues. They need interaction, personal interaction with the counselor, with whoever it is. They can't go to AI and get their problem resolved. I don't think, not today. So AI will do what it's doing, and I am a follower, but a one-to-one with the counselor, with, is empathy. See, empathy and compassion. AI can never achieve that. I don't care. I don't care. Empathy and compassion. As I mentioned, empathy is not the same as sympathy.
Right.
It is, how can I help you? What can I do for you? How can I make you happy? We were all born to be happy.
True.
If you are not happy, something is wrong. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You were born to be happy. Then why are you depressed? By the way, I just want to, in closing, just want to say something.
Sure.
Addiction is related to depression. If you're an addict, whatever, not just drugs and alcohol, could be anything, TV, whatever. There are 98 known addictions. If you're an addict, what is addiction? Doing anything in excess.
Right.
Then you become depressed. If you're depressed, then you become an addict. So I looked at it and I said, wow, what is all this about depression, anxiety, stress? It has to do with emotions. So if you go down the ladder, if you begin with emotional wellness, you will not be depressed. You will not become an addict. I've written 3 books on this subject. They're all bestsellers.
Congratulations.
So you have to go to the origin.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing that to light and, talk about this important aspect of emotions, which is the extreme of it when it becomes an addiction. I think, as you said, and I'm just taking this a little forward in terms of AI's impact on EI, I believe that all the versions that we are creating of AI and the attempt to make it more and more effective in itself is a testimony of the importance of AI, because when we are upgrading AI, our attempt is to make it sound more human-like, right? So we're saying, let it not sound like a robot. Let it not sound all dry and curt. It needs to sound as if somebody is talking to another human. And how do you bring the human element? By bringing in the emotional element in the algorithm, in the programming, in the coding. And
Right.
that is how we're training machines to become like humans. And when we say becoming like humans, we mean being emotional. That is what makes us humans. And as we conclude this session, I want to tell all the leaders out here that from a point beyond mid management, from a point where we start managing other people, EI becomes the most important form of intelligence to focus on and improve upon consciously. There are many tests available online that you must go through to see what your EQ is. And then we have to consciously learn how to manage emotions, how to bring in more empathy, how
Very
to work
good.
on our relationships and the elements that Mr. Agarwal talked about. And all of that cumulatively makes us more emotionally intelligent, more human intelligence into everything else that we do. On that note, we conclude today's satsang. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. Any quick closing remarks from your end?
Anytime. You seem to be a big AI supporter, proponent. Huh?
Well, I don't think one has a choice in today's time.
Nice.
It's important to befriend the times that we are in and the times to come. And I think there are a lot of benefits. There is a lot of power that it will add to our ability to add value, to people if we
Sounds
learn it
good.
the right way and if we integrate it in the right manner.
All right. It's great. Thank you for the opportunity. Say hello to your group. And maybe we can do a webinar
Would
sometime in the future.
Sure. Would love to do that, sir. And we'll reach out and connect on that separately. Thank you once again for being here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us live today for the satsang session. I would love to know your takeaways or your questions related to EI. If you have any, please put it in the comments and I will do my best to reach out to you and answer your questions. Of course, next week we meet again for another satsang session. It's going to be an open session for any questions that you may have. Till then, take very good care of yourself. I will see you real soon. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.